What's going on, everybody? RogersBase here, and I'm so excited to sit down and record my first impressions hot off of the Nintendo Switch 2 media preview experience here in New York. Now, obviously, this weekend kicks off the big Nintendo Switch 2 fan experiences, but Nintendo was kind enough to invite me to come actually play the games for myself before the public, so I got extended playtime with pretty much every major game releasing on Nintendo Switch 2 in the first year. The only two big games from the Direct that weren't present here were Kirby Air Ride's new game and the new FromSoft game, but everything else I got to try, and I have a lot of thoughts. And I also made a point to ask you guys on social media beforehand to give me some questions so that I could ask them and be aware of them going into this event. And so I'm also going to be doing a frequently asked questions section at the end of giving my impressions to go over absolutely everything regarding Nintendo Switch 2. Buckle up, because this video is going to be a long one. So I want to kick things off by talking about, of course, their big launch game for Nintendo Switch 2, Mario Kart World. This game has been the topic of a lot of debate online over the past 24 hours. One, because of the fact that, again, this is the first big mainline built from the ground up Mario Kart game in over 10 years. There's a lot to go over here, and I think there's really high expectations. But two, this game, as of the time I'm recording this, again, things can change with the tariffs, but as of the time I'm recording this game is $10 more than a lot of the other Switch 2 games. You can get it for essentially $50 if you buy the Nintendo Switch 2 bundle, but if you're getting it on its own, I believe it's $79.99, whereas the other Switch 2 games are $69.99. And I, based on what I played, do not necessarily think it is deserving of that $79.99 price tag. I think it is a very good game. I think there is a lot of stuff to love here, but I really feel like the actual big system selling launch title for this game is coming out a month after launch, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on in this video. I don't think it's Mario Kart. Again, Mario Kart is really fun. I'm sure you've seen a lot of footage of this by now. The fact that the entire world is this big, seamless, open world, and you could drive to every single racetrack you want to drive to. There's the free roam mode where you can openly explore everything. You can hang out with your friends and take photos. Obviously, it completely utilizes the new game chat features of the Nintendo Switch 2. It's got a massive roster, though I will say this is something I've seen reported a lot of places about how big the roster in this game is. It is. It's massive, but I'm going to splice in footage right here. When we were going through the character select screen, there's a lot of awesome new costumes for characters. There's like an Oasis outfit for Daisy. There's this Pro Racer outfit for Rosalina. There's just so many cool outfits. But the outfits for the characters are not like alternate skins that you click on the character select screen. They are literally separate character slots. And so I think there's a lot of people who think those costumes, because I thought this too, based on what I saw in the Direct, who thought those costumes were maybe tied to like that Wonder Bag item or were tied to something else. That is not the case at all. That is a whole separate thing with the fast food and the burgers and the power-ups. That is not the costumes for the characters. The costumes are actual separate character slots in the game. What I will say though, right from the get-go, the absolute best thing about Mario Kart World, the mode that you're going to be coming back to again and again and again, the mode that I wish I could have played more of at the event, was Knockout Tour. Bro, I cannot stress enough how good Knockout Tour is. If you are a fan of F-Zero Grand Prix in F-Zero 99, essentially you know you have the elimination matches where you go through 5 different races. You start with the 99, and then as you're going through each of the different races, people get eliminated, but then you have to go to like a menu screen and wait for the people who are eliminated to finish the race, and then you got to load up the next race, and then you're waiting and you start at the starting line again. That is not how Knockout Tour works. Essentially, when you are waiting to start Knockout Tour, you're in this lobby with like 24 other players, and you're all choosing places on the map that you want to use as your starting point. And then there's all these different courses that you can take, different ways that you could chart around this giant rally map. And then once the race starts, you're in it through the next 5 races. There's no menu in between. It's seamless because all of the tracks are interconnected with each other in this big open world. And so when you're charting out your course, you're literally just charting out the entire racetrack. There's no need for a menu in between when people are getting eliminated. If you're first place in that first round of Knockout Tour, which I was with my little moo cow, right? I got through that first race, and then I wasn't waiting for other people to get through the race as I continued. I just went right through. I was already on to the second course. I was already jumping and grabbing different items and hitting shortcuts and looking for my horn so I could stop the blue shells. That entire sequence in Mario Kart World that I got to try was just so much fun, and I feel like, again, this is going to be probably my next big stream game for the next couple years. Specifically, this mode. This mode feels made for streamers, where you could just like bring your members in, bring your subscribers in, you open up a lobby, everybody's entering, people get eliminated quickly so you could easily like add other people in for the next rally race. It's exciting because especially when you're getting up to each finish line and you see the big number on the finish line, like, oh, you have to have 14th or better, you got to have 8th place or better, and you just see that last minute scramble of everybody firing off their items at once and trying to stop the other people. It was so unbelievably cool. I love this mode. In one way, I want to say I'm shocked they never did this in a Mario Kart game before, but again, I guess no other Mario Kart game had these interconnected worlds in the same way, so they just straight up couldn't do it in other Mario Kart games. But I love it, and I do feel like that mode in particular is going to be worth the price of admission playing Mario Kart World, excuse me. I keep calling it Tour because the Knockout Tour. There's all these different names and so much information that I had to absorb today. Just excuse me if I'm misspeaking a little bit. The new items, by the way, too, are so good. Like, I love the one that turns you into the Goomba when you're hitting things. I loved I don't know if it was like a golden shell or a golden bullet bill or something, but the one that rockets forward and then it creates the little line of coins, then you like dash through those to get your little speed boost. I loved all the little fast food items. I will say it was kind of crazy to get one of the fast food items that was a burger while playing as the cow. That was kind of wild too. I overall had a really good time with Knockout Tour, but again, I feel like they are trying to push the free roaming open world side of this as like the big reason for you to get Mario Kart World. And while it is the big reason for Knockout Tour because of the interconnectivity of the tracks, I don't see myself spending a lot of time in free roam mode looking for secrets in the world or just like exploring and hanging out with friends. I think that could be cool, right? If you're a big Mario fan, you want to find a bunch of Easter eggs on the open world, great, you can do that. Go drive by the little pit stop area or drive through the jungles or whatever. Like, I was having fun doing that. But realistically, again, I feel like I'm going to be using free roam to learn where the shortcuts are so I can do better in the Knockout Tour mode. But the other thing I want to bring up really quickly before I move on to talking about the next game is that the kart customizations from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Mario Kart 8 are gone. You know how you had that screen where you would choose like the wheels of your car and then you'd have the base of your car and then you'd have your glider? That is not the case anymore. There's all these different vehicles you could choose from bikes to snowmobiles to whatever, but the vehicles transform within the matches themselves into like speedboats if you're on the water or planes if you're in the sky. You're not like picking and choosing different vehicles and setting up different wheels for them. So it actually makes getting into the next race a lot more seamless. You don't have to like scroll through to find the exact reel or scroll through to find the exact cart. You'll just basically find the cart that works for you and then move forward. And some of these new cart designs, let me tell you, are so cool. There's one in particular that's like a magic carpet that both my friend Philly Beats You and I were using consistently while racing in Mario Kart World. We loved this, and I'm super excited to see what some of the other cart designs are going to be. And again, I don't think we're gonna have to wait too long because I do think we're going to see a lot more information about this game moving to April 17th for the big Mario Kart Direct. All right, so moving away from Mario Kart, the next thing I want to discuss are the Nintendo Switch 2 editions of Switch 1 games. All of them that they announced during the Direct, except for Pokemon Legends ZA, were present at this fan experience. I got to try or at least watch people play all of them, and I have a lot of thoughts. I think there are two in particular that completely won me over. I was shocked that I now think these are worth it. There's one that I literally could never play this game on a Switch 1 ever again. I have to play this game on Switch 2 moving forward. And then there are two that I don't necessarily think are super worth it. The two that I don't really think are super worth it are Mario Party Jamboree and Kirby in the Forgotten Land. I'd say if you are a huge fan of Kirby in the Forgotten Land and you want that extra single player experience, you want to play a couple more levels, then I would say, or if you've never played Forgotten Land before, again, Forgotten Land's an amazing game. If you somehow missed it, then I would say maybe this Switch 2 edition is worth it. But there was nothing that I saw when watching people play that game that I went like, oh my God, this is jaw-dropping. I can't experience this experience on a Switch 1. And I think the same thing kind of went for Mario Party as well. Now, obviously, a lot of the stuff that they added for Mario Party Jamboree are specifically tied to like the game chat features of the Switch 2 or like the Nintendo Switch camera. And while admittedly, it was a lot of fun playing that Bowser TV Jamboree TV mode with the camera, with some of the demonstrators and with my friends at the demo event, it seems like a one-time fun thing. Again, I feel like if Kirby's upgrade and the Mario Kart Jamboree upgrade are like $10 for people who already own those games, I'll probably go, okay, sure, I'll do it. But if it's any more than that, I don't see myself dropping down money on either of those. With that being said, I then want to go into the two that I am completely shocked that I was blown away by. I probably shouldn't have been based on how good they looked in the direct, but my goodness gracious, I never want to play Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild on the Switch 1 ever again, having now experienced those games on Switch 2. Seeing them in 4K, running at 60 FPS, seamless as you're jumping off of temples, going through the sky, diving underground, like the game looked so good. Both Philly and I were blown away playing the game, not just in handheld mode where it was running beautifully, but then in docked mode as well on the TV. Like seeing the scale of all the clouds and like the Death Star thing in the sky in Tears of the Kingdom. And like the thing that I did in Tears of the Kingdom when I booted it up, because of course you guys know how much I love Sidon, I booted up the save that had the water temple area. So I watched the opening cutscene where you got like that Splatoon boss enemy that's shooting at the sludge. And then I just jumped off the water temple and dove to the grounds of Hyrule. And again, like the transition, there was no chugging whatsoever. It was perfect. You just jump off the thing in the sky down to the ground. It looks like it's not even loading anything. You could see the entire map. It was stunning. If you're a fan of vistas in video games, bro, the Switch 2 edition of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is going to blow your mind. The Korok Forest in Breath of the Wild, which I know they already made a point to showcase, but it's like seeing that in 4K on a big screen TV with all the cute little stuff going around, the little Koroks and all the different lighting effects. It's beautiful. It's brilliant. Again, there's like no loading time. The only time I even noticed loading whatsoever was when you go to the menu and physically fast travel somewhere. And I think we did a countdown in one of the videos that I filmed from this event of how long it took to get to Death Mountain from the water temple area that I was at from the beginning of the save file. And I believe it took like 6 seconds to get to the other side of the map. That's obviously an extreme difference from what it was like in the original base game on Switch 1. But again, I feel like the real way that you're going to notice this game improving on the base game is just when you're actually like playing the game itself. I think even more noticeable than those load times, like I said, are just like how smooth the game runs, how visually stunning these games are. It really does feel like this is the way you are meant to experience Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild. So I'd say for people who've never played those games, who somehow didn't have a Switch 1 and are now interested in getting a Switch 2, like this is a must buy, both of them. They're incredible, especially the QR trading thing where like you can scan your QR thing in Tears of the Kingdom and then share your creation with somebody else. I think that's super neat. We didn't get to try out any of the Zelda note stuff in the app, but I think that's mostly tied to story stuff anyway, so I wouldn't even really want to be spoiled. But the gameplay itself in both of those, jaw-dropping, incredible. And the good thing that I found out from the staff at this event, Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild Switch 2 edition, apparently this was on the website and I missed it, both of those games are included with people who are expansion pass users of Nintendo Switch Online. So if you currently own Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild and you are an expansion pass user of NSO, you will get the Switch 2 editions of those games included with your NSO subscription, which I think is awesome. So well done on that, Nintendo, well done. And that'll bring me to the one game that I think you absolutely positively need to experience and play on Switch 2, and that is Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. First off, the fact that I actually got to finally play, since its initial announcement back in 2017, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, that already had me losing my mind. But when I tell you this version of the game is jaw-dropping. First off, visually, like seeing this thing run in 120 FPS, seeing all the detail on the screen, like this is what I expected of a next-gen Nintendo system. This looks like the next big generational leap in terms of graphics, in terms of technology, and the gameplay in just the demo alone, which went through that opening space station that we saw in that first trailer since they rebooted development, where you see the space pirate like laid out, and then you eventually go through the little area where you run into Psylocke. I got to play through all that, and I got to play the boss at the end of that segment, and my goodness gracious, it was so satisfying. The big reason for that, moving aside of just how pretty it looked, were the mouse controls. This is the other reason why I feel like the Switch 2 version of Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is the reason to play the game. Because something, again, that I haven't really seen that many people talking about, I'm sure people will once these demo events keep happening, but essentially you can play the game with dual mouse mode. You could use one of your Joy-Cons to move around and the other Joy-Con to point and shoot. However, at any point, there's no need for like a button swapping screen, nothing. At any point when you're playing, if you're like, I don't really want to move around in mouse mode anymore, you just tilt your Joy-Con up and you start using the joystick. You move the joystick and you start walking around. It's that simple. You don't have to like open up another menu. It's seamless. And the same thing goes for aiming. Say, for example, you're having trouble aiming with the mouse. It's maybe too sensitive and you're like, I just know what I need to hit. I can aim up and shoot. You do that and it knows instinctively right away. And then once you are aiming with mouse mode again, like there's an extra reticle on the screen so you know you're doing it, but like it's immediate. It's seamless as you just pick the thing up and point and shoot. Again, so much of this you're just gonna have to like experience for yourself. There's only so much I can say to like give off the impression of how different it feels and how good it feels to be playing the game in this mode. But again, having those mouse controls mixed with on the fly being able to switch your controls back to the standard controls and the beauty of how the game looks on Switch 2, I need to experience this game in entirety for the first time on Switch 2. Again, it's great that it's going to be there for Switch 1 people. I like the fact that people can play it on there, but for me personally, someone who's like a massive Metroid fan who's been waiting for this game all these years, there's no way I'm going to be playing this outside of the Switch 2 thing. Also, even the boss that they had in the demo for that was so much fun because it was basically teaching me how to use the different controls. There's the thing, you know, where you can like lock on and then do the free aiming to shoot like external other little things. So say, for example, there's like a thing in the middle of the door, then there's 4 other little things that you have to shoot. You could lock onto the door and then use that as your centering point to then shoot the other 4 little things. But then during this boss sequence, there was this giant creature that had these 2 shields and he had these like infected Metroids that were all over his body and he was shielding the different parts of the Metroid, so you have to like lock onto his main body, and then whenever the Metroids weren't glowing, when they were just like standard, you have to shoot a missile at them or shoot the power beams at them to damage him. And then in the second half of the boss battle, he starts like shooting force fields at you, so you're going underneath the force field in your morph ball mode, and then he'll shoot another one and you got to double jump over it. And just the visceral nature of that fight where like you're diving into the morph ball thing, hopping back out of it, like doing your double jump, locking on and doing your free aiming, switching between the mouse controls. It was so exciting and so satisfying. And I feel like this is going to be one of those killer apps for the Switch 2 in that first year where like if people get the system and go, what game should I get? Metroid Prime 4 Beyond Switch 2 Edition. Right there at the top of the list. And actually, since I was just talking about how good the mouse controls work in Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, this is maybe a really good opportunity to bring up how I felt the controllers, the Joy-Con, the Pro Controller, and the system itself in handheld mode felt when I was playing with it. A big question that I kept getting asked on social media, people said, could you just notice, pay attention to how warm it feels in your hand when you are playing it in handheld mode? And I got to play a lot of stuff in handheld mode, from like Mario Kart Tour to Tears of the Kingdom, Switch 2 Edition. I never felt it get warm once. And again, these systems are on the entire day. These are like long demo events. Obviously, they're plugged into chargers, but still in all, I was holding the system in handheld mode. The system itself feels very comfortable. It just feels like a little bit of a bigger Switch. The one thing I will say that I noticed a lot were the Joy-Cons. I think when I was playing with the Joy-Cons in both mouse mode and just like regular free aiming in something like Metroid Prime 4, they felt noticeably more comfortable. Those bigger buttons on the inside of them. I also loved, again, the fact that you could just click the Joy-Cons onto the system, that you no longer have to slide them in. The new joysticks also feel really good as well. Just overall, they feel more ergonomic. They feel nicer in your hand. I love the new Joy-Cons. I will say the new Pro Controller, I didn't really notice too many differences with though. Like I know there's obviously the 2 buttons that are on the back now that they talked about on that Direct, but every game, literally almost every single game that I played, whenever I asked the people who were demonstrating it, like, oh, what's up with the 2 buttons on the back? Like, do I use these for anything? Nearly every single thing that I played, they were like, oh, stay tuned for more information. So I was like, oh, okay, so this interacts with these games in some way, but you're just not telling us what these buttons are going to do and how much different it's going to make these games feel. But for the time being, yeah, those little back buttons didn't really do much for me on the Pro Controller. And I did like the feel of it in my hand. Like, again, the new Pro Controller feels good. feels like a standard Pro controller, but there wasn't anything mind-blowing with it or nothing I like immediately noticed in the same way that I immediately noticed how much better the Joy-Cons feel now that they're a little bit bigger with the buttons on the side as well, and just how nice that mouse mode was. Again, it feels exactly like you'd expect it to feel using a computer mouse, but now you're using your Joy-Con on its side. I've loved this idea from day one when we found out it was going to have mouse controls. I'm excited to see what other games are going to take advantage of the mouse controls, but again, based on what I've already played, things like Metroid Prime 4 Beyond absolutely did. Though, this is maybe a good transition into talking about another game that I got an extended playtime with at this demo experience, and that is Drag and Drive, which is the new ARMS-like game, basically, where it seems kind of bare bones at first, but there's actually some technical aspects to it. And obviously, we're still waiting to find out more information about this game. This game, I think they said there's going to be more information in like summer of this year. Obviously, the thing that I got to play during this event, this is the wheelchair basketball game, there was like a part where I was learning the controls, where basically you skid your little Joy-Cons forward and like you just sort of gently slide them and it pushes your character forward. You can hold down the ZR or ZL button and it puts the brakes on the wheelchair on, so then you can like swivel your way around and do like really quick turns. And overall, the game just felt really good. It felt really responsive with the mouse controls, and I was playing with groups of 3. We were doing basketball 3-on-3. It was really fun, but I didn't realize what makes this game special until after I stopped playing with other people. So basically, before I went to my next demo, I was just sort of sitting there waiting for someone to get off of one of the other systems, and I thought, I'm just gonna mess around with these controls. And you've seen this in the trailer for this Drag and Drive game, but basically there's like these half-pipe ramps that are on the side of the basketball courts. I basically accidentally discovered there's a Tony Hawk-esque like combo meter off of these ramps. And essentially, if you're doing like half-pipe grinds or you're flipping around the ramp in your wheelchair and you slide back down and you make a 3-point shot, you get multipliers with your points. And I feel like, again, they didn't really dive into that in the direct. I feel like they're going to explain more a little bit later, but seeing all the different texts, or like the thing is, when you hold down the ZR button with your brake on your wheelchair and then you let it go, it lifts the other side of your chair up. And then if you alternate, and right after ZR, you hold down ZL and you try hopping, you do like a bunny hop. And then you could integrate that bunny hop into your little multiplier combo things off the half pipe and then like ram into someone, grab their basketball and shoot it, and then you get extra points. Again, I think this game is going to end up being a lot deeper than what they're showing. I don't really know what the idea was behind just showing like that one little concrete area with the basic looking kind of characters. I feel like there is going to be a lot more to this, and I think if they flesh it out more and give us a lot of different modes, I could absolutely see myself really enjoying this game. Like, I don't necessarily think, based on what I played at the event, that it would be necessarily like one of those $70 games alongside like your Metroid Prime 4s and your Donkey Kong Bonanzas. But again, I could absolutely see myself spending a lot of time playing this game. I'm somebody who has like hundreds of hours in ARMS. I adore that game. And again, I feel like that is the best comparison that I can make for Drag and Drive. It's something that fully utilizes the controls of the system, takes advantage of, all the new features, while at the same time is a lot more technical than I think it's actually being shown to be. All right, so moving right along, now let's talk about some of the third-party experiences and the NSO experiences that I got to try during this media event as well. I got to play 3 of the third-party games. I played Cyberpunk 2077, which ran at a stable 40 FPS, ran surprisingly well on Switch 2. I had a good time playing that. I got to try out Yakuza 0, which also looked great on Switch 2, but the highlight of the third-party offerings for me was Street Fighter 6, because not only do you have all those DLC characters from that first year included, so you've got like Elena and everything like that, but you also have these new Switch 2 exclusive modes. There's like a gyro battle mode where you're attacking utilizing motion controls, and then as a spin-off to this gyro battle mode, they have a calorie burner mode. Now, I'm gonna be real, I don't know how much time I'm actually gonna spend playing this on my own, but at this demo event, we had a blast playing the calorie burner mode. So basically, you're fighting utilizing all of the characters in the roster of Street Fighter 6, but you're fighting utilizing motion controls. You basically move one way or the other. The move, do you hold down one of the buttons and then move to like parry? You have another button and a little swivel that you do to do your drive impact, and then basically you're just fighting with the other person, and there's like this tug of war meter on the top, and whoever burns more calories ends up winning at the end of the day. There's not really like health meters, instead it's this bar. And then once you're actually getting scored at the the end of this mode, it tells you how many calories you burned, and it equates it to like a piece of food. So when I was playing with Phil ended up burning enough to like eat a duck confit, and I burned enough to have like a slice of green pizza. It was just a lot of fun. I hope there's like some footage of the two of us playing, just going crazy in the mode. I know all the product demonstrators were freaking out and cheering us on as we were playing. It was just really a lot of fun. And again, the base game runs great, looks beautiful. Street Fighter 6 has never been on a Nintendo platform before, so this is going to be the first way that you get a chance to check out the game, and I highly suggest you do. Street Fighter 6 is a fantastic fighting game. You've got the DLC characters, you got these new gyro modes. This to me is like another day one. I will most definitely be picking this up, and I asked, and you will be able to use Hori controllers, which I think is really neat too. So if you got an arcade stick that you're using with Switch 1, you could use it with Switch 2 as well. But of course, the other big thing that I was super excited to play at this demo event was Gamecube on NSO, and I actually learned a couple things from playing it here. So already, you guys already know this, Wind Waker, Soul Calibur 2, F-Zero GX, they're all going to be there day one at launch. F-Zero GX and Soul Calibur in particular, I got the chance to play in widescreen mode, and F-Zero in particular looks gorgeous in HD. I've never played these games in widescreen mode before, because when they first came out, I didn't have a widescreen TV. So they really do feel like new experiences playing them on Switch 2. But F-Zero GX, like, just based on how good it looked in the little bit that I played at this demo event, I was in the casino level and the Firefield level, and I was playing utilizing the AX racers that you unlock. So like PJ and the little crazy taxi cab and Lily and stuff. We were driving around having such a good time. Hearing that music blaring again, it was great. But say, for example, you want that good classic kind of like old CRT look. There is also a feature to turn on a CRT filter for GameCube on NSO, which is surprising considering the fact that there's no CRT filter in the N64 app on Switch 1. But I was told by the staff that apparently not only is the CRT filter coming to GameCube on NSO on Switch 2, but also the CRT filter is going to be coming to Nintendo 64 on Switch 2 as well too. So again, a nice cool little nugget of information that I found out that was kind of buried during that, influx of information during that Switch 2 Direct. But I think it's really cool that these games are getting even more love on Switch 2, and I already know I'm going to spend tons of hours playing F-Zero GX in HD online. I can't stress enough how good it looked running on Switch 2. But with that being said, that's going to bring me to the actual killer app for the Switch 2. This is the game, not Mario Kart, that I think is going to be the system seller. And it's a good thing, because currently this game is coming out like 1 month after the Switch 2 launch. That game is Donkey Kong Bonanza. Bro, when I tell you this game is going to be a game of the year contender, this game is without question the spiritual successor to Mario Odyssey. I know there were a lot of people upset that are big Mario fans that were like, where's my 3D Mario game? I was expecting it in that Switch 2 Direct. This is it. The easiest way that I could describe this is, the very minor spoilers for Mario Odyssey. The end of Mario Odyssey where you're playing as Bowser and you're just completely ripping things up and you've got the music blaring in the background? Imagine that turned into a full-fledged action-adventure game, but you have like the mobility and the moveset of something like a Banjo-Kazooie. So Donkey Kong's moveset in this game is like unreal. He can rip chunks out of the ground. He can rip chunks out of nearly every wall. He could like grab a rock from the ground and like start surfing on it and go crazy. You could pick up the rock and then gyro aim and throw at different enemies. You can scale walls, do flips off of walls, ground pound onto things, like dive deep underground, crawl through and explore to find gold and bananas and fossils and all these different collectibles. It's like they took everything that was good about Mario Odyssey that I actually didn't particularly love after the fact in Mario Odyssey because of the fact that it was a Mario game. So like the moons, for example, I didn't love after the fact. I like Mario Odyssey, obviously, but after the fact, when I was thinking about it compared to other big 3D Mario games, like getting a star in Mario 64 and Mario Galaxy or like Mario Sunshine, you get a shine. It's a bigger deal, right? It's like a big thing. You go through a full mission and then you end up grabbing your little shine and then you move on to the next thing. Whereas in Mario Odyssey, I felt like you were just getting moons for everything, for just like exploring and discovering things. And that's fine, but to me, it didn't quite feel like it belonged in a Mario game, if that makes any sense. It feels like it belonged in something else. This is what it feels like it was meant for. Having this big, giant like open world platforming environments with Donkey Kong. Mind you, they're still in levels. I shouldn't say it's open world. It's not like the whole world is connected in the same way that like Mario Kart World was, for example. But you've got these big open environments where you can platform all over the place, dig into walls, go like 4, 5, 6 levels deep underground to collect gold. The animations on Donkey Kong are like incredible. I love his redesign. Graphically, it's like superb. You're seeing all these different particle effects of like the gold flying everywhere. There's so many things to collect. Again, it feels like they took the collecting aspect of Mario Odyssey and also compounded like some of the collectathon stuff from things like the classic Rareware games like Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie in this as well. And everything clearly is going to unlock something else. So essentially in that first level that you've seen in the Nintendo Direct where he's in like the mining outfit, I got to play through all that stuff in the mines. I found a bunch of golden bananas, which again are the equivalent of the moons in Donkey Kong Bonanza. Also, quick side note, every time you get a banana, he goes, "Ooh, banana," like the classic DK64 thing. I thought that was super cool too. Also, because I've seen a lot of people saying this, I've seen people saying, oh, what's going to happen to the rare characters? Are they going? I can report myself, I ran into Cranky Kong during my demo of this game. He was giving me one of the golden bananas, ranting about his life story in one of the little levels that I got to explore. And then afterwards, I mean, he looked like Cranky Kong. He didn't look like he had a supreme redesign or anything like that. And it was so much fun to get to see that stuff. So like the rare characters are going to be here. Maybe not necessarily all of them, but I've already seen Cranky Kong. I already saw the little ostrich guy as well. He directly references Rambi. So I do feel like, considering we've only seen like 1 or 2 levels from this game, there's certainly going to be more. I would not be surprised to see like Dixie Kong or Diddy Kong show up or something like that either. The writing is genuinely really funny with all the little monkey NPCs around all the different maps. And again, the exploration side of it, the collectathon side of it. Basically, you're always collecting golden bananas, which again are the equivalent of the moons. Then you're constantly collecting gold, which I'm assuming you're going to use as a currency for something, but also kind of works as like a point meter to encourage you to keep exploring. So there's like treasure chests buried within walls that you have to get that have gold particles in them. You've got like giant gold chunks that you can break out of different steel when you're punching different things or throwing bombs at stuff. You've got what else is there? You've got the gold chunks, you've got the bananas, you've got the fossils. So there's like these fossils that are scattered around the map that kind of look like semi-realistic Animal Crossing fossils. You know, the blue with the little like swirl in the middle of it. And you collect a bunch of these, but then there's also rare variations of fossils that you collect that are based off of like old sea creatures from the prehistoric era. So like I found one of these really old mussels and it was named. It wasn't just like a standard little Animal Crossing fossil. So I'm assuming those are going to unlock something else as well. And then on top of getting all of that, there's also these little banana chips that you get around the different levels too. They're like little banana coin, banana chip things. And those are going to unlock something else too. It's like there's so much to collect, so much to explore. And the coolest feature about this game that I was completely mind blown by is that there's a map that you can basically see when you're playing the game that is a 3D rendering of the entire map as you've explored it already. And every little thing you destroy, everything, every wall you've chipped into, every hole that you've dug underneath the ground, everything is shown on this map. So from the moment you enter a level all the way to the point where you leave the level, it saves your progress and even gives you the option to reset all the terrain. So say you're like, oh, I destroyed too much, I want to go to this other area, I want to just explore and see what it looks like without wrecking everything. You can do that. Like, the game is just so good. The music is incredible. I was really, really fortunate because I don't think a lot of other people are going to get the chance to do this. And you guys know I love my music in my Nintendo games. It's like a big thing about it. It's make or break for me. The music sounded like it was orchestrated, and because there weren't a lot of other people in this media event, I was very, very late. I was like the last group that was out for the day, and I was just in there with like one other buddy of mine playing Donkey Kong. We were standing right next to the monitors. I got to hear the music clearly. These tracks are so good. There were remixes of classic Donkey Kong tracks. There's totally new music. Again, the humor is really good. The animation is really good. The exploration is great. The platforming, the action is incredible. Like, I feel like if you're an action game fan, you're gonna love this game. I think if you're a platformer fan, you're gonna love this game. I think if you like classic Rareware games, you're gonna love this game. I think if you've just been waiting for years like I have been for a 3D Donkey Kong, there's no hate against Donkey Kong Country, but it's not the same thing. If you've wanted a 3D Donkey Kong game that straight up feels like a successor to Mario Odyssey, this is that game. And with like how much creativity was in these different levels and the different materials that you can pick up and combine to throw at different creatures and things, and the little bonus areas that you find when you're doing the little handstand thing and playing the music and finding secret environments or dive bombing onto stuff, like his moveset in this game is ridiculous. And I think this is absolutely going to speak to those types of people who love having, a giant variety of different attacks that they can do in action games and then comboing them into different things. It feels so good. Again, much like Metroid Prime 4, this feels like the next generation of Nintendo. This feels like I could not have played this on any other system. This is the reason to own a Switch 2. And like I said, I really do feel like this game is going to end up on so many Game of the Year lists at the end of the year. I'm like, Astrobot better watch out. I feel like this was their response. Astrobot's obviously an amazing game, totally deserving of the Game of the Year wins that it got. But I feel like you had Mario Odyssey, and then Sony was like, bet, we'll make Astrobot. And then Nintendo was like, bet, we're going to take that team, we're going to make a Donkey Kong game. And now you're getting this, and it's so good. I can't wait to see more of this. I hope they do a whole dedicated direct for this game, much like they're doing with Mario Kart, because I need more information right now. And the nice thing is, like, I feel very fortunate because I got a chance to play the demo 3 times. So the demo was a 20-minute long demo. I got to play essentially an hour because there was no one else in the demo room, and I just kept playing more Donkey Kong. And like I said, I spent the entirety of the second and third demo really exploring and trying to find everything, trying to get every gold piece, trying to find every banana, trying to find every fossil. And there was still, after an hour of playtime in one little environment, that's just the first level of the game, there was still so much that I had yet to uncover. And I feel like that just goes to show, like, this game is going to be so much deeper than people are expecting. Exploration fans are going to get a kick out of it. This, I feel like, again, is an early contender for Game of the Year and the reason to own a Nintendo Switch 2. I cannot speak highly enough about Donkey Kong Bonanza. This game is going to be incredible. So with all that out of the way, and before I dive into some of those more specific questions that people were asking me on social media, I do also just want to say whether or not I feel like the system as a whole is worth it and which games I believe I'll be picking up for the thing. Now, again, prices may vary. This story keeps changing as I'm recording this. New information is coming out. This information might not still be up to date by the time that I upload this video, but I will say, at the $450 price point and $500 for Mario Kart included with it, I feel like it's a no-brainer for me. Day one, I will buy the system with Mario Kart. Again, I feel like I still don't necessarily know why Mario Kart was singled out as that game that's going to be $80 when Donkey Kong and Metroid are not. And I feel like both of those experiences blew me away way more. But again, I think bundled in for $50, it's like a no-brainer. Of course I'm going to get that, and of course I'm going to get the system. And then in terms of games, I think the one third-party game, which I mentioned here, that definitely stands out that I will for sure be picking up for Switch 2 is Street Fighter. In terms of the Switch 2 editions, like I said, I'm very lucky. I've got the expansion pass already for Switch 1. That's going to carry over to Switch 2, so I'm definitely going to get Tears of the Kingdom. I'm definitely going to get Breath of the Wild. I'm definitely going to have Gamecube and NSO. Again, all that stuff is included with the expansion pass that I already have, so those 3, once again, are a no-brainer. And then in terms of the first party releases, again, there's no way I am playing Metroid Prime 4 on a Switch 1 now. The game was so good on Switch 2. That's definitely a day one buy for me. I love Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. I cannot wait to see more of it. And of course, Donkey Kong Bonanza, which, like I said multiple times in this video, I believe is an early contender for Game of the Year. And as somebody who's been starved for a 3D Donkey Kong game, finally getting one on the system and it looking, sounding, and playing as good as I always hoped it would, it's like a dream come true for me. And then the other game that I think is going to surprise people, that I think so long as it's not super expensive, I will definitely pick up, is that Drag and Drive game, man. I had fun with it. Again, it's speaking of the ARMS fan in me, that it's a small game that doesn't seem like it's got a lot going for it, but actually is secretly really technical. I feel like there's going to be more to it. I'm excited to see what more the little characters are going to be like. I think we need to see like the Min Min equivalent, right? We need to see like the character that would be in Smash Brothers if we end up getting a new Smash Brothers game one day. I need to see that. I want to see some more environments, maybe like a street basketball, kind of like skateboard ramp area would be kind of cool instead of just that one that we got in the warehouse. But I enjoyed Drag and Drive as well, so I'll probably pick that up. But those are my choices for, of the stuff that I played, the games that I will be buying. So that's meaning I'm probably going to skip Kirby. I'm not Air Ride, of course, I'm going to get Air Ride, but I'm probably going to skip Kirby in the Forgotten Land Switch 2. I'm probably going to skip Mario Party. I'm probably going to skip a lot of the other third-party ones that I already have on PC. see. But again, Street Fighter 6, like adding that gyro mode, having the amiibo support, I feel like that is absolutely a third-party port done right. And again, considering you can't play it on Switch 1, I think it's really cool that it's here on Switch 2. Now, with that being said, let's get into some of these frequently asked questions. So this first one comes from WasPoke7, who says, Roger, were you able to check out the home menu and system settings, especially if there's anything new on the themes section? Now, unfortunately, the home button was disabled when I accidentally clicked it when I was playing Mario Kart, and they had to reset the system. So I feel like they probably didn't want to see in the home menu stuff anytime soon. I didn't see anything else about themes. I still think that probably they will have something else to show for that a little bit later, but I think considering all the other information they had to get out there, it just wasn't high priority for them, even though for a lot of hardcore fans like us, it's high priority for us. But no, I did not see any new themes, and I did not get to see the home menu. But I think you can see the home menu on screenshots that are on the Nintendo website. This next one comes from Expansion Lord over on Twitter, who said, how did the console itself feel, like controllers and all that? And I responded, playing with the Joy-Cons was significantly more comfortable, mouse mode was perfect, especially in Metroid, and the Pro Controller was nice, but didn't feel notably better or worse to me. The two back buttons remained a mystery for most of the games that I played, and he then responded saying, would you say the Joy-Cons are flat out better? And I would say yes, absolutely. I do think the Joy-Cons are flat out better on Switch 2 than they are on Switch 1. And I really do like the new sticks, but I especially like mouse controls, and I especially like the bigger buttons that are on the side. This next one is wild. This one comes from my friend Carlos over at Sega, who said, Roger, how did the cartridge taste? Now, I will tell you right now, I did not get the chance to taste test the Switch 2 cartridges. I know there was a whole big meme when Switch 1 first came out that people tasted the cartridges and then they turned out to taste very, very badly because they didn't want kids putting the Switch 1 cartridges in their mouth. I have to assume Switch 2 cartridges are not going to taste much better, and I can't imagine that is high on their priority list. But I am glad that you asked it. This next one comes from JK is Bald over on Twitter, who said, was the higher frame rate in tabletop mode particularly noticeable to you? I'm a sucker for high refresh rates, so when they said in the direct that the screen would be capable of 120 frames per second, I was pretty excited. And I responded to this saying, I didn't really play in tabletop mode, only docked in handheld mode. But as I mentioned during the Metroid Prime portion of this video, it was extremely noticeable in Metroid to the point where I'm completely certain I will only be playing that game on Switch 2. So the next question comes from Gravity the Ghost, who said, how was the Rumble, if you noticed any? Was it better than the OG HD Rumble or roughly the same? And I wanted to answer this one because I do think it's a really valid question. They were hyping up HD Rumble with Switch 1, and then nothing really came of it. Obviously, there were a couple mini games in 1-2 Switch, and a couple games took advantage, but for the most part, it wasn't that big of a deal. It also didn't seem like that big of a deal for any of the games that I played on Switch 2 either. But I will say the one where it was really noticeable was, again, that drag and drive game, because you really felt the wheels of the wheelchair when you were like scooting the thing forward. You could feel almost like the ridges on the tires, if that makes sense, when you were pushing the thing forward. It did feel very interesting, and it was something I immediately noticed, but that's the only big Rumble thing that stood out to me right away. Laker John 77 asked, how did the camera hold up? Was it difficult or glitchy at all with the lighting, and how did it read you? It read all of us who were playing Mario Party just fine. The camera works exactly like you would expect it to work. The green screen tech that they're using on it is really good. It didn't look like it was glitching out or anything like that when we were playing. And we were in an environment where there were like a bunch of different colors all over the place. Lots of different screens, you know, the big red of the Nintendo Switch logo projected on one wall, lights going all over the place. And it read the four of us playing Mario Party just fine. So I can't imagine it's going to be that big of an issue. Again, do I see myself utilizing the Nintendo Switch 2 camera that much when I'm playing games? Probably not. A lot of the time, even when I stream, I don't want to have my camera on. I just like playing on my own. But I definitely see a world in which I utilize the voice chat feature. I just think I'm going to be using the camera all that much. Though I will say they showed after the direct that there is an accessory, a camera accessory that looks like the piranha plant from Mario. And I do think that is very cute. So if I was going to ever get the camera for something, I'd probably pick up the little piranha plant one. This next question was another one that I got asked a lot. This comes from Caden, who said, did you notice any frame hiccups in your time with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom? How was that experience? And I simply responded, those games look and play impeccable. I brought that up earlier in this video multiple times. I'm going to say it here again. Those games look so good on Switch 2, play so well on Switch 2, to the point where now that I'm going to have the expansion pass and get those versions of the games, I'm probably going to hold off playing any more of those games until the Switch 2 comes out, and then I'll maybe like 100% Tears of the Kingdom or something, because I'm assuming the save file will carry over. That is maybe a question I should ask the next time I see a bunch of Nintendo people around. Louis RHP also asked asks another question I'm sure people are going to be interested in my answer to. Would you say that Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour, which by the way, I did not bring up when I was doing all my impressions, there's a reason for that. I knew this question was coming. Would you say Welcome Tour is worth the $10? And how would you say the image quality was on GameCube Classics? Now, I already talked about the GameCube Classics thing. The games look beautiful, especially F-Zero. Welcome Tour is cute. It's a very cute little digital manual with cute little mini games telling you why they created the things that they created for the Switch 2. It's real cute. I still probably will not buy it, even if it is $10. It really feels like it should have been the digital pack-in game that just acted as like your digital manual for the Switch 2. I do not know why this was separated and turned into its different game. I think that was a big mistake. I am wondering if maybe Nintendo is going to go back on that and pack it in with some of the systems, at the very least, maybe the Mario Kart bundle. We're going to have to wait and see. But no, I will probably not be buying Welcome Tour. And finally, last but not least, but the question I know everybody out there is asking, this one comes from Walker, Texas Ranger, who said, Roger, do any of the games warrant the prices that they're asking for them? And basically, I answered to him that I'm going to wait officially for Mario Kart until we find out more information during that direct, because currently, right now, it does not make sense to me that Mario Kart's $10 more than Donkey Kong and then Metroid Prime 4, especially considering, again, you can get it as a pack-in for like $50. So I don't know what the decision was for Mario Kart, so I don't necessarily think that one is justified as much as we are going to be playing it. I do absolutely feel like Donkey Kong and Metroid Prime 4 are justified. Again, you got to remember, Tears of the Kingdom, when it first came out for Switch 1, was also $69.99. So this price for Donkey Kong and for Metroid Prime is still completely in line with what we got for the original Tears of the Kingdom on Switch 1. So I'm not like super surprised by this. I'm not saying you should be okay with it. Like, I still think it's pretty high, but it just is coming with the territory right now. And again, this stuff is changing constantly, but it does totally feel like Donkey Kong and Metroid will live up to the same price that Tears of the Kingdom was. As for some of the other ports, I think that's completely dependent on whether or not you've played these games before. Like, if you've never played Street Fighter, or you've never played Yakuza, or you've never played Cyberpunk, maybe it might be worth it to you. Again, Drag and Drive, I had a lot of fun with. I can't imagine ever paying $70 for that game, though. And I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. And again, Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, like, if you've never played them before, they're great. Get the Switch 2 editions, but again, you don't need to buy them if you've got the expansion pass. If you got the expansion pass, you'll be able to get those games included and complimentary if you already own the game on Switch 1, which I presume most people who are probably going to be early adopters of Switch 2 probably already have the original Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom on Switch 1. But with all that being said, I think I have now answered the majority of the questions, because all the other frequently asked questions were things that were already brought up multiple times in this video. Massive, massive thank you once again to Nintendo for inviting me out to get to try all these games for myself. I cannot wait to actually have the Switch 2 in my own hands, not to play it at a demo event, but to actually own one for myself. I will also be at the LA experience a week and a half from now. I'll be on the Sunday block of the LA experience. So if you're there, don't be afraid to say hello. I also want to give a special shout out to all the product demonstrators and all the people who are working the Nintendo Switch 2 event here in New York. Seeing so many buddies of mine from Treehouse, that was really cool. But also just all the people who are demoing the games. Thank you for your hard work. And also thank you for coming up to me. So many of them were like, we watched your direct reaction yesterday. Seeing you go off for Donkey Kong Kirby Air Ride was so cool. And there is like a certain sense of cool validation when you find out that the people making these games and demoing these games are watching my content. It feels really cool, so I wanted to give a thank you to you guys as well. Once again, thank you to all of you who watched this video. If you have any other questions after this giant hour-long video sharing my impressions of the Switch 2 event, again, please leave them down in the comments below. I'm going to try to answer as many as possible. Just keep in mind that I am currently traveling, because I'm going straight from New York to then Chicago for C2E2, and then back to LA for the LA experience. But look forward to my coverage from that. Look forward to all the other videos coming out in the lead up to Switch 2, my reaction to the Mario Kart Direct. Like, comment, subscribe, and until next time, I'll talk to you guys later. Knock-em! So we just finished the knockout tour mode of Mario Kart World. I am telling you guys, this is the best mode in a Mario Kart game, period. If you like F-Zero 99, if you are a fan of that game, like me, this is like the Grand Prix mode, but there's no menu in between. It's seamless. You go from like one side of the world to the other. This is the best mode by far.
Keeps moving.
By far. It is
stop.
incredible. I love it. And you can play as the cow and the dolphin and the magic carpet.
Everything.
Day one.
Everything.
This is a day one for me.
This is perfect.